All right, user interface. So we just discussed the general overview of user interface and setting up a file for units, but there is so much more that we need to know in order to actually model something. I will roll that out as split up as possible, but know that sometimes we're going to have to kind of jump aside from actually modeling something so that I can explain to you all of the options you have in a particular feature. So let's start off real quick by just modeling a box, right? To get the feel for working in 3D and inputting the data for 3 different sizes on the box. So yesterday, or on Monday, I explained that there are 2 types of data, or rather command execution features, or methods rather. You could type it into the command prompt at the top. In this case, the default is the top in Rhino. Or you can actually just click the button for that command. Oftentimes, that just comes down to what type of computer user you are and which you prefer. I actually don't know which one I tend to go to. I think it's whatever the more familiar commands are, I'll type those in. If it's something that I've only used a couple of times and I know where it is on the menu, but I might forget its name, sometimes I go searching for the button. So just know that eventually you will find which way works for you. But for the box, I know actually that you have, well, technically I guess you have three ways of inputting it, because you can access every single command from the menu format here as well. So you've got icons, you've got the command prompt, and you've got the menu. But if you ever find that you kind of remember a command name or what it's supposed to do, but you don't know where it is or what menu it's supposed to be in, you can begin to type in the command and it will start to complete it for you, and it'll assist you in your search. So if I want to create a box, I can type in box, and you see that it brings up a list of direct commands that have box in it or begin with box, and then it has a list of similar commands or that contain box. So another one that's pretty descriptive, I think. Oop. Okay, so that video is ready. Another one that's descriptive to see kind of how it begins to select them is SEL for select. Look at how many options for selecting things it comes up with. So while box only gave me 2 primary commands, this one gives you a list of probably 60 of them. So it's a very, very powerful tool to get used to if you can just remember a little bit about the command name. Yes?
For box, you just type in box, right?
I did, yep, box.
I type in box because in the command box it says box, but underneath that it says first corner of base. Did I not type in something right?
You hit enter.
Okay.
So I haven't quite gotten to executing the command yet. Okay. So I just typed in box and I let it sit there. So if you happen to have typed in box and pressed enter, this is what you'll see. So if you know the command and you've typed in the command you want, you press enter and it executes that command, and then you are then prompted to input the information that it requests in order to make a box. So for us, and I showed you a little bit about this yesterday, let's look real quick about the format here. So the text on the left-hand side that says first corner of base, it's bold. It's bold because that's the narrative for what it is you're doing. You also have options to manipulate how this command is going to execute, creating that form. So diagonal, 3-point, vertical, and center are just different ways of inputting the same information, where it's going to ask you for the X, Y, and Z values. But let's leave it right now as just a default, which is diagonal. And it looks like this. So very intuitively, you can just click in the space. So let's start off just intuitively first. Click somewhere in the top view. And you'll see that this is what it means by diagonal. Or no, oh, it's going by 3-point for this one. So the first point locks to wherever you clicked. The second point goes across this rectangle, or square if you're exact, to wherever you're going to place the second point. So then you place the second point, and now even though you move your mouse back and forth in the top view, you're seeing the geometry move only in the perspective view. And that's because obviously you can't see something that's being extruded when you're looking at it directly from above, right? So that's like saying this box sits in space. I've drawn the base here, and now when I look at it, right, so I'm looking at it from the top, I'm actually pulling it out. But if you're looking at it from the top, you won't see any of that. So that's why the perspective view is so powerful here, and why you don't really need it in AutoCAD, because AutoCAD doesn't have as many three-dimensional functions, at least not ones that you want to bother with. So in order to move to the other screen, all you have to do, if you're in the middle of a command, all you have to do is just move your mouse over. So slide your mouse over to perspective, and you can still use your wheel to scroll in and out, and you can pull up and down. You can pull below or above, doesn't matter, and you click. So I'm going to quickly pause the video. I'm going to come around and make sure everybody has intuitively made a box before we go through and we do a data input box. All right, so there was a question here to explore the other format of making a box, which would be the diagonal one. And frankly, I've thought that was diagonal for so long. I just never really paid that much attention to it, I guess. So let's explore. And this is my process for when I'm exploring a new command. I tend to just activate that function and then do what it asks me to do. So if the default is 3-point, when I switch to diagonal, it's going to ask me for first corner of cube, it looks like. So I don't have much of a description there, so if I click the first corner and I click the second corner and then click the third corner, it looks like what this is doing is it's tracking a three-dimensional diagonal. So where the 3-point was specifically asking for 3 separate points, it looks like what you can do here is only pick 2 points in order to get it to work. Well, actually, maybe you can pick 2 points. Let's try that again and actually put it on. Don't follow along with me just yet, but I'm just trying this out. So I can put it there. Yeah. Okay, so you only need to pick 2 points and you can do it in 3 dimensions rather than having a planar base, which then you tell it how far to extrude. So did you guys see what I did there? I had an object snap on. Let me make it another color actually so you can see. So I'll show you how to set all this up, but right now so you understand that there are different ways of doing it. On a red layer, I'm going to make another box, and it's going to ask me, I'm going to set it to diagonal. I'm going to say first corner here, second corner to the top right corner. So in 3D, I'm just, instead of going from this corner to that corner and then saying how high I want it to go, I can just go from one corner to the other corner in 3 dimensions, and that's it. So 2 steps instead of 3 steps, which is useful when you have pre-existing geometry that you can just snap to one point and snap to another point. Right? So workflows are really important. It depends on where you are in the modeling process for you to decide which option you're going to use. And again, that comes with experience. So I turned on object snaps. I didn't want to introduce that yet, but I will in a second. Okay, so wow, this video, oh, it's still the same video. I was going to say, there's no way I'm up to 10 minutes already. So what I want to do now is show you how to actually create a box that is a precise size. So if we don't have pre-existing geometry, and we know based on the PDF, if you look at the sizes of each of these boxes, we've got 24 feet, and then throughout all of them, they're all 24 feet in dimension. So we've got a cube that has 24 feet on all sides. So that data input is going to be pretty simple. We can activate the box command, which this time I'm not typing it in. I'm actually just going over to the left-hand menu here where there's some basic features. And box happens to be about midway down, a little bit above midway on the left side. It's this little blue cube. So you click that and you'll see that it's, oops, you'll see that it's going to ask you to set up a box just like we just made. Same command. Now recall from Monday, we want to create a box that has precise dimensions. We have to tell it where to place the first corner. So for simplicity's sake, let's begin at the origin. And the origin is what? 0, 0. And we go 0, 0, and hit enter. And be aware now. What's that? Okay. I'll troubleshoot individually in just a sec. Let me finish creating the box, and then I'll come around and help everybody out. So just as a general thought then for all of you guys, if you're hung up on something, I try to keep these videos in as small chunks as possible so that I can come around and troubleshoot with you individually in chunks, right? For workflow and stuff here in the class, it makes it a little bit smoother. So I'll be around to help you out if you're stuck. Okay. All right. So we anchored the first point at the origin, which was 0, 0. Then it's asking us for the other corner of the base. So for us, that's at what point? 24, 24, right? Because our base, all the dimensions are 24 feet. So we go 24, and because my units are set to feet, I don't have to type in the foot mark. But like I said, I like to be in the practice of doing that anyway. So 24 feet, 24 feet. And then it asks us for the height. And the height is always going to be relative to the orientation of the base. So all I have to type in is 24 feet and hit enter. And then the last thing that I want to teach you here before I stop this video and come around and help you guys out is how to measure and double check your work. So the quickest check that doesn't leave any kind of extraneous geometry and selectable objects in your file is just to type in dist for distance. And the way that that works is it's going to ask you to specify the first point and the second point. But now I have to introduce the topic of object snaps. And I'm just going to start with one type of object snap, and that's your endpoints. So the way that relative geometry gets modeled in Rhino all the time is that you can actually physically snap to where the computer has that precise point all the way down to that 1/1000th of a foot. So object snaps are located down here. And follow along with me explicitly here when we're doing this. It's called O-snap. So O-snap, when you click it, should turn blue. And it should pull up, it won't turn blue until you've clicked one, but it should pull up this menu. And this menu is where you have toggles for different types of object snaps. So for us, we want to snap to the end points, and that object snap here is labeled as end. So check that on. You'll notice that object snap turned blue. End is like all the way down there in the bottom left corner. If any of you guys, I see some of you guys trying to see back there. So yeah, it's all the way in the bottom left corner. It says end. And then now you can type in dist for distance. And this is what happens. Now, as I move my mouse around, notice how my crosshair is moving, but the actual point that it's snapping to is stationary. That's because as I get into a close enough proximity to that point, it will select the closest end point that it has available, precisely.
Can you back up? So what's the purpose of this? Like, why would you, can you just explain that again?
Sure, yes, that's a good question. Guys, can I get you to focus here for a sec? This is a conceptual point. So object snaps are incredibly important for referentially modeling to other geometry. So it's the benefit is that if I wanted to measure a point without object snaps, I would have to tell it again precisely which first point and which second point by using X, Y, and Z. But we don't want to do that. Not to mention, that doesn't tell me exactly where that geometry wound up because I'm not tethering anything to it. I'm giving it new data. So when I use an object snap's on, endpoint is on, I type in dist for distance, I then can grab the corner, and it grabs that exact corner. And then I can grab the other corner, and it'll tell me at the top 24 feet. Now to show you why we need it visually, if I draw another box, right, and I'm going to use perspective here just so you can see it in great detail. So, and I'm also going to make it on the red layer so that you can see what's happening. I'm drawing another box. I want to place it on the bottom left corner of that box, and then I want to have it go to the opposite corner and go all the way up to the top. So I've made two boxes that are 24 by 24 by 24. But without object snap, it's not exact. Because the screen resolution, I can't get to exactly that point. So you'll see, when you zoom in, they're actually not in the same spot. So with object snap, when I do that, if I turn my endpoints on, all I have to do is click on box, and it snaps to the endpoint, and then snaps to the endpoint, and then snaps to the endpoint, and now it's exact. No matter how far I zoom in, you will not see two boxes.
How do you get the second box?
That's a good question too. Thank you. You're a fountain. So to get the second box, it's a selection procedure where when you click on two coincident geometries meaning they occupy exactly the same space, it'll bring up a selection menu where you can then scroll through the different options that are there. So I can select the black layer one, or I can select the red layer one. So that got me the red one, and I can then move it. Don't worry about executing move, but there you see I moved it. Okay, so that video went a little bit longer, but I wanted to show you how to double check your work. Remember, object snaps on, dist to measure distance, and you click on one point to the other point, and make sure it's 24 feet.
Explain this selection you select.
Yeah, I deleted the geometry, but again, selection, when you have two coincident geometries, you click it, and if there are two geometries in that place, it will give you a menu that you can select through. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to come through real quick and just do a measure on all of your boxes to make sure that they're correct. Okay? That didn't stop, did it?